The chamber felt different that morning. It wasn't just the usual political buzz, cameras adjusting lenses, aides whispering, journalists scanning agendas. No, this was thicker, heavier, like the calm right before a thunderstorm you can feel in your bones. The air didn't just carry tension, it carried intention. People weren't just waiting for a vote, they were waiting for something to happen, something big, something sharp. Staffers clutched their notepads tighter. Reporters typed, then deleted, then typed again. Everyone was on edge. Even the marble walls seemed to listen. At the center of it all sat Jasmine Crockett, calm, still, as if she knew the lightning was coming but had already decided not to flinch. At first glance, Jasmine Crockett didn't look like someone preparing for war. She sat alone, no entourage, no flurry of aides around her. Just her, centered, composed, like the calm eye of a hurricane, surrounded by chaos no one could yet see. She wasn't scrolling through her phone. She wasn't whispering to anyone. She was just sitting, hands folded, eyes forward, heart steady. But don't mistake that stillness for softness. Jasmine Crockett wasn't new to conflict. Before Congress, she was a civil rights attorney, one who stood between the state and the silenced. She took on systems most people feared, and she didn't just win cases, she protected voices. In every room she entered, Jasmine didn't just represent her district, she represented something much bigger. The right to exist without apology, the right to speak without being rewritten. And on this day, she knew something was coming. She just didn't know they would try to erase her in front of the whole country. The chairwoman's voice cut through the thick silence. Representative Greene, you have the floor. Marjorie Taylor Greene rose slowly, deliberately. Every movement was choreographed, measured, theatrical. She wasn't just standing up, she was stepping into a spotlight meant for a showdown. From deep inside her blazer pocket, she pulled out a small red USB stick. She held it high like a weapon raised before the first strike. The room's breath caught. Cameras zoomed in. The moment froze. Without hesitation, she strode to the technician's desk. Her footsteps clicked like a warning, sharp and final. She handed over the USB, voice steady but dripping with accusation. Play it now. The screen flickered to life behind the panel and the chamber held its breath. The moment the clip began, the entire chamber felt it an electric shiver in the air. Static flickered away, revealing Jasmine Crockett under blinding white lights, framed as though at a rally podium. Her shoulders squared, gaze unwavering. But the first words that emerged were not her truth. White people are not fit to lead this country. A silence fell so sudden it screamed. Pens hovered mid-air. Eyebrows shot up. Even veteran lawmakers exchanged uneasy glances. The sentence was razor-sharp, an accusation so extreme it seemed unimaginable coming from a respected congresswoman. Then the clip jumped, cutting faster than any manual edit could. The camera closed in on Jasmine's face, every pixel magnified. Her lips moved again, carrying a second barb. If I'm given real power, I will rip the Constitution to shreds. 2 lines, 2 digital daggers. Chaos erupted. Shouts of protest mingled with stunned murmurs. Reporters lunged for their notebooks. Some whispered, "Is this real? Did she say that?" Others reached for their phones, already tweeting, already recording. On the Republican bench, faces reddened. A congressman's voice thundered, "Remove her! Expel her! This is sedition!" His words echoed off the marble. Chairs scraped. Microphones crackled as aides rushed forward. Across the aisle, a handful of Democrats stared in horror. A staffer pressed a palm to her mouth, eyes brimming with disbelief. "They've weaponized AI," she breathed. "They've turned her voice into poison." Behind the gallery windows, the press corps was no less frantic. Cameramen zoomed in, capturing every flicker of reaction. In that suspended moment, the line between reality and fabrication blurred. No one could tell where truth ended and the deepfake began. And through it all, the image remained Jasmine Crockett, someone's creation, someone's target, standing tall in a digital storm. The clip ended, and the damage had already been done. No one questioned the footage's authenticity at first glance. The lighting, the camera angles, even the slight tremor in Jasmine's voice, all meticulously crafted to mimic real live testimony. It wasn't just a fake video, it was a masterclass in deception. How believable was it? The digital voice print matched 97.8% of Jasmine's public speeches. Facial motion synced perfectly, no awkward delays or mismatched lips. Background noise and ambient room tone seamlessly aligned with congressional acoustics. For a moment, allies froze, eyebrows arched, jaws clenched, pens hovering mid-air. They wondered, could this really be her? Across the aisle, enemies erupted in victory. Fist pumps, shouts of triumph, slams on the desk. That's the proof we needed. But through the roar of cheers and the hush of doubt, one constant remained. Jasmine Crockett sat unmoved and unbroken anchor in a sea of engineered chaos. She was their villain, handcrafted and perfectly staged. And yet, in her silence, she wielded a power they couldn't compute. Chaos erupted like a tidal wave. Republicans pounded their desks in rhythmic fury, each bang a heartbeat of outrage. Marjorie Taylor Greene rose again. This woman is a clear and present danger. Expel her from this chamber. The words cut deeper than any gavel. This wasn't a hearing anymore. It was a digital lynching broadcast in high definition. Lawmakers stood, fists clenched, eyes blazing. Calls for immediate expulsion echoed off marble walls. TV cameras captured every second, every scowl, every shout, every slam of a hand against wood. In that moment, Congress ceased to be a place of debate. It became a stage for public execution, where a single click replaced due process and a manipulated video became the prosecutor, jury, and executioner all at once. And through it all, Jasmine remained still, her expression unbroken, her presence unyielding. As the storm raged around her, she sat as the eye calm, invincible, and ready for what came next. In the midst of the uproar, something extraordinary happened. Jasmine Crockett did not flinch. No stunned look, no frantic gesture, no hurried defense, just absolute stillness. As accusations flew and cameras circled her, calm became her fiercest weapon. Every pounding desk, every shouted demand for expulsion, they all collided against her unmoving presence. That moment redefined defiance. She refused to play the game by their rules. She wouldn't react, she wouldn't plead, she wouldn't break. Her silence spoke louder than any outburst. In a room built on noise, her quiet was revolutionary. Her stillness said, "You can attack me, you can distort my voice, but you cannot break my will." As the room reeled, Marjorie Taylor Greene lunged again, this time with words sharpened for maximum damage. "Look at her," she sneered, voice dripping contempt. The radical Barbie of Congress, always screaming, never debating. Laughter rippled through the Republican side. Encouraged, she pressed on. Or should I say, ghetto Congresswoman? She's not here to represent you, she's here to divide you. No gavel cut her off. No chairwoman admonished her tone. Her cruelty echoed in the silence, an unspoken permission for hatred. And in that silence, the chamber transformed. It wasn't just spectators to a smear anymore. They were accomplices, complicit in each calculated barb. Jasmine's stillness never wavered, but the room had shifted. Her silence had forced the prejudices out into the open. In the cacophony of insults and jeers, one small object commanded the room's full attention. A sealed ivory envelope, its edges crisp, resting on the dark mahogany table like a clandestine promise. Jasmine Crockett's right hand hovered above it, fingers slightly curled, poised for action but perfectly calm. That simple gesture spoke volumes. She wasn't reaching for vengeance or pleading for mercy. She was preparing to unleash truth. The hush that followed was palpable. Reporters lowered their pens, technicians paused their feeds, even the aides on the floor held their breath. Every camera in the chamber swiveled toward that envelope as if it were a detonator. Millions of Americans watching live felt the collective heartbeat quicken. Some gripped their armrests in anticipation. Others straightened in their chairs, leaning forward. Because everyone understood this was no ordinary document. It was a fulcrum of accountability, proof that would pivot the narrative in an instant. Jasmine's pulse remained steady, but behind her calm eyes burned a quiet resolve. She wasn't just illustrating a point, she was about to ignite a reckoning that no deepfake could distort. Seconds stretched into an eternity. The chamber's ambient noise, the hum of cameras, the distant whisper of security, faded into a low drone. Time itself seemed to pause, waiting for her next move. Then, with the grace of a seasoned orator, Jasmine curled her fingertips around the envelope's edge. The shift was seismic. The brass of the room leaned in, adversaries and allies alike electrified by the promise of unvarnished truth. Jasmine placed the envelope gently back on the desk, then rose to her feet with measured composure. The chamber, still crackling with anger, fell into a tentative hush. She adjusted the microphone, her voice steady and controlled. "Madam Chair, I respectfully request 5 uninterrupted minutes to respond." Those words hung in the air, polite yet undeniable. A formal request, but more than that, a declaration of authority. For the first time since the ambush, the tide began to turn. Eyes that had darted in confusion now locked on her. Hands that had been poised to strike paused mid-air. In that moment, Jasmine wasn't pleading. She was claiming her right to speak on her own terms. The room shifted. What had been a digital crucifixion became a stage for accountability. Allies leaned forward curious. Enemies straightened uncertain. The narrative trembled on a knife's edge. With calm determination, Jasmine opened the envelope. She unfolded the first sheet as if revealing a map to the truth. Jasmine placed the first document on the desk, a forensic report stamped with tiny codes and timestamps. She met the room's gaze and began voice calm, factual. This clip contains a hidden digital watermark encoded by Revo AI v3. A murmur rippled through the chamber. Revo AI v3 wasn't consumer software. It was an elite government contractor's tool costing millions per license, restricted to top-secret labs. She tapped the report. Metadata shows this file was generated on July 3rd using GPU nodes registered to a federal contractor ID. In other words, this deepfake wasn't made in someone's basement. It required state-level resources. Eyes widened. Pens scribbled frantic notes. Republicans who cheered earlier now shifted uncomfortably. Democrats leaned in, sensing the scandal's true scale. Jasmine continued, "The watermark is invisible to the naked eye, but detectable with forensic software. Whoever orchestrated this had both the technical expertise and the budget of a government operation." In that instant, the hearing transformed. What began as a smear campaign now exposed an elaborate conspiracy, one with footprints leading straight to the corridors of power. Jasmine tapped a second sheet onto the desk, an official business registration. Her voice cut through the tension. "This," she said, holding the document up, "is the registration for Patriot Focus LLC, a shell company formed just 18 months ago." The room leaned in as she continued, "The registered agent listed is John Halperin, campaign counsel for Representative Greene's super PAC in 2020. In other words, MTG's own lawyer created this entity." A hush fell. Silence was no longer safety, it was complicity. Eyes darted from document to MTG. Republicans who'd shouted moments ago now sat stiff lips pressed together. Democrats exchanged glances, realizing the web extended far beyond a fake video. Jasmine's tone remained calm but resolute. Patriot Focus LLC has no employees, no website, only a locked mailbox in Fort Lauderdale. Its sole purpose: funnel funds and coordinate media attacks under the radar. A stamp of inevitability echoed. The shadow company wasn't an abstract threat anymore, it was proof of a coordinated campaign. Suddenly, every second of silence in the chamber spoke volumes. They knew. They were part of it, and now there was no hiding. The chamber hung on Jasmine's final words, when suddenly Marjorie Taylor Greene erupted. She leapt from her seat, face flushed, voice cracking. "That's not mine! That's not my company! This is a witch hunt!" Her outburst shattered the tentative calm. But instead of solidifying support, her rage sounded off, more like fear than fury. Republicans shifted uncomfortably. Some ducked their heads, others looked away. The earlier cheers had died on their lips. MTG's words echoed around the marble walls, but they rang hollow. "You're lying. You have no proof." Her eyes darted to the documents, then to fellow party members, seeking validation, finding none. For the first time, the question wasn't, did she do it, but how deep does this go? In that frantic plea, her anger betrayed her. It was the raw panic of a cornered animal, knowing the trap had snapped shut. Jasmine lifted a third document, an official campaign finance ledger stamped with transaction details. Her tone remained unwavering. On June 15th, a payment of $25,000 was made from Representative Greene's campaign account to Patriot Focus LLC. A ripple of disbelief coursed through the chamber. $25,000! A clear paper trail connecting MTG's political war chest to the shadow company. Jasmine let the weight of that fact settle, then revealed the final bombshell. "And this," she said, sliding forward, "a classified memo, is from Patriot Focus's internal files. Operation Loudmouth. Let the Loudmouth destroy herself." A stunned silence followed. Those 5 words, cold, clinical, conspiratorial, hung in the air like a verdict. Every face went pale. Allies shifted in their seats. Enemies swallowed hard. The memo wasn't just evidence of intent, it was proof of malice. Jasmine's voice dropped to a firm whisper. "They didn't want debate. They planned my destruction." In that instant, the room understood this wasn't politics as usual. It was a calculated campaign of character assassination, funded, coordinated, and executed in secret. Just as MTG's panic echoed through the chamber, a new voice rang out, steady, authoritative. Dr. John. Rima Patel, lead researcher at Stanford's Artificial Intelligence Lab, took the stand. Her calm presence cut through the chaos like a scalpel. She laid out her credentials, decades of work in neural speech synthesis and deep learning video generation. Then, without dramatics, she presented her findings. "Our analysis confirms this clip is a deepfake. We detected a 91% voice match rate to Representative Crockett, highly convincing, but also a 230 millisecond lip sync delay, which is impossible in live speech." A murmur spread. The technical details weren't just jargon, they were a smoking gun. Dr. Patel continued, "Furthermore, metadata indicates the use of Revo AI v3 on a government-contracted GPU cluster. This level of sophistication and polish cannot be achieved without massive funding and specialized hardware resources only a state actor or top-tier contractor could muster." In that moment, skepticism turned to certainty. What began as allegations now stood verified by science. The chamber shifted again. Not a single lawmaker dared question the authenticity. Even the most vocal critics fell silent, forced to reckon with irrefutable proof. Jasmine returned to the table and without hesitation pressed a button on a discreet remote. The hush deepened as the screen flickered once more. This time the face that appeared wasn't hers, but it was unmistakably Marjorie Taylor Greene. Her voice, chillingly familiar, declared, "I personally authorized Operation Loudmouth. It was time someone shut those radical congresswomen up." Gasps erupted. MTG's hand shot up to her chest, her face drained of color. MTG screaming, "That's slander! That is not true!" Jasmine leaned forward, voice soft but unyielding. "Now you know how it feels to be lied about." A profound silence fell. Jasmine's counterattack had flipped the script, turning accuser into the accused. In that moment, the chamber saw not just a politician exposed, but the raw power of truth harnessed by its rightful owner. Jasmine held the remote down and reached for a slim envelope from her folder. She unfolded a handwritten letter and read slowly, each word weighted with purpose. "Dear Congresswoman Crockett, I'm 13 years old and they suspended me from school for saying Black Lives Matter on the announcements. They called me a troublemaker. I just wanted my voice to matter." Her voice caught on, suspended, then steadied as she pressed on. "I watched your hearing today. I saw them try to erase you with lies. But when you sat so still, I felt like I could be still too. Thank you for showing me how to stand." A lump formed in the chamber's collective throat. This wasn't political theater. It was a cry from the next generation. Jasmine lowered the letter, eyes glistening with empathy. This girl's voice was silenced for speaking the truth. I stand here not just for myself, but for every young person told they don't deserve to be heard. In that moment, emotions swelled. Jasmine had become more than a target. She was a symbol of courage, of resilience, and of a legacy that no lie could destroy. In the stunned silence that followed, the power in the room shifted. The Republicans who had moments ago roared their approval now sat frozen. No jeers, no applause, only the low hum of disbelief. Jasmine remained seated, her expression composed. She said nothing, but the silence was hers. She had seized control. Cameras panned across the chamber. Lawmakers exchanged uneasy glances. The narrative had overturned. The predator had become the prey. Then, in a moment that would echo through history, one Republican, the stalwart Congressman Mills, nodded slowly. A single deliberate nod. It spoke volumes, a concession of truth, a crack in the wall of denial. A reckoning had begun. Within 24 hours, the repercussions reverberated through Washington. The House Ethics Committee announced a formal inquiry into Representative Greene's conduct. By a bipartisan vote, she was stripped of her seat on the powerful Technology Oversight Committee, once her personal battleground. No fanfare, no dramatic gavel, just a concise statement. Effective immediately, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene is removed from all committee assignments due to a loss of institutional confidence. Her empire of noise, built on sharp accusations and viral spectacles, crumbled in silence. No rallies, no press conferences. Just the echo of her own words used against her. As aides gathered her files, MTG sat alone at her desk, the weight of an empty Bavel before her. The chamber had spoken, manipulation carried consequences. In the days following the hearing, momentum surged on Capitol Hill. Representative Caleb Myers, a conservative respected by both sides, took the podium. He held aloft a crisp document titled the Loudmouth Act, though Jasmine would later insist on a different name. Today, he declared, voice firm, we introduce bipartisan legislation to safeguard our democracy in the AI age. The bill's key provision, all political content using synthetic voices, facial alteration, or AI-generated likenesses must bear an indelible digital watermark verifiable by federal agencies. Platforms distributing unmarked AI content would face significant fines, and bad faith actors could be prosecuted under felony statutes. Myers continued, "This law isn't about punishing speech, it's about protecting truth. If we can't trust our own eyes and ears, democracy itself is at risk." He turned to Jasmine Crockett, standing quietly in the gallery. I asked Congresswoman Crockett if she wanted this named after her. She said no. She said, name it for the next voice erased so they won't be forgotten. A hush settled as legislators absorbed her words. In that moment, the bill became more than policy. It became a promise to every unheard voice. The hearing was over. Papers lay scattered. Cameras still hummed. Jasmine Crockett rose, gathering her folder. She didn't turn to look back. In silence, she walked out of the chamber, each step measured and unhurried. The Capitol's enormous skylight bathed her figure in pale morning light like a spotlight reserved for history. Behind her, the room remained frozen. No applause, no chatter, only the echo of her presence. No one dared cut away. As the camera followed her graceful exit, a soft voiceover began. They called me loud, but maybe they were just afraid of hearing the truth. Her silhouette moved toward the corridor's archway, disappearing into a conduit of stone and light. That final line resonated an unspoken challenge, an invitation to every viewer to listen, to question, to speak. And as the screen faded to black, the weight of her words lingered, proof that real power often lies not in volume, but in courage. In a world where lies can be manufactured with a click, this story reminds us that truth, backed by calm courage and solid evidence, will always prevail over deception. Sometimes the most powerful response is silence and steady resolve, not shouting into the void. Every voice from a black congresswoman under siege to a 13-year-old student punished for speaking out deserves to be heard and protected. When you witness injustice, gather your facts, stand firm in your convictions, and let the power of truth transform the narrative. If this journey moved you, join us in holding power to account. Hit subscribe and ring the bell to never miss our in-depth explorations of courage, justice, and the fight for every silenced voice. Because when we listen, question, and speak out together, no lie can stand in our way.